It's 8:03. Call this meeting of December 19th, 2024 of the Municipal Building Committee meeting to order. First thing is public forum. Nobody here from public. Review of past minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Okay, do we have any comments, corrections? Nancy did a great job again.
She spelled my name right, so I
Well, there we go. Automatic pass right there.
there you go.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, 4, 1 abstention. Okay, new business. I don't think we have anything on the country club, Christie?
No.
No, there's
nothing.
not. I mean, that's been turned over to the select board, so.
Right. Yeah. So the select board, we let them know that it was what this committee had done, but the focus has really been on making some decisions around the community
Okay.
center.
So we can probably remove that from any further discussion
Yeah.
with this board.
Yep, for now.
Committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I just for everyone's information, I mean, Ian and I think myself made it clear that that this committee is not interested in this project lingering. So I think the board is interested in taking it up, in the beginning of 2025. So.
Right. And I did have somebody come to me yesterday and just pose the question of, since we're not overseeing anything up there, what's happening with the building? And basically they were told that Jim Stewart is in charge of that. And it's my understanding that it's going to be heated and it'll be kept up until something further is discussed. So just for the public's knowledge, that it's not being left to just deteriorate.
Right. And it is continuing to be used, to the extent that it's needed when the golf season's closed by the pro shop. So, and that's where our golf pro's office is. So it's also not vacant. I mean, certainly Jim's caring for the building, but he also, I'm sure, works with Matt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's been continuing. That's always been that way. It's not like we just turned it on. It's been that way all along.
Okay. Next thing is the Regional Emergency Communication Center. Christy, do we have any update on that?
So we did hold a public meeting on December 12th, so last Thursday. It was a pretty short meeting, but the purpose of it was to just give an update to the community of kind of where we are in terms of design. And so that presentation is available on the town's website under that spotlight, or you can watch it on Westborough TV. They did record it as well. I think it was a really sort of high-level review of where we're at with the design, but we're moving forward. We're actually, they just opened the next grant round for funding for construction, because we do need additional funds for construction, which we knew we would always need, and so we're moving through that process. But, again, we meet every other week, and our meetings are publicly posted, so the public's welcome to attend. We just brought in Southborough, and so yesterday we had our first meeting, not in Westborough, it was in Southborough. We're going to try to move around the 3 towns. But that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, I definitely encourage watching that December 12th meeting, just kind of see where we're at.
And as you just stated, for the public's edification, Southborough did join. So
Yes.
there are 3 communities that are going to be
Yep.
partaking in the communication center.
Yep, definitely.
At least 3.
At least
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
more. There's definitely interest, and we could see more joining down the road too.
Yep. The next step in setting up the district is that we would like to hire an executive director to sort of staff all of the work that's being done right now, and also to look for or to sort of go out and recruit other towns to join us. Because of where we're at in terms of the setting up of the district and with the grant and Westborough being the fiduciary, we actually are going to ask the select board in January to approve us bringing that employee on as a Westborough employee, understanding that the pay would be through the grant. So we'll obviously give the board the details of that, but just that's our next kind of step in terms of setting up the district.
Okay.
What are the 3 towns that are in it right now? I know you've told me, and I know
That's okay.
it's gone in and
So
out.
Westborough, Grafton, and Southborough.
Grafton.
Yep.
How many, do we know how many, sorry.
Go ahead, Pete. No, go
Do we
ahead.
know how many towns that facility could handle when it's up and running?
That's the question we keep getting. So It depends on the population of the town. So as Chief Purcell put it, if Worcester was interested in coming in at this point, we would be done. We wouldn't be able to add any additional. They're not. I mean, they have their own thing, but that size would require us to sort of stop, including new towns. But I think what we've said is, we could potentially take up to 10 or 12 small towns. So it really depends on the population at this point. I know that there's some other towns who have recently approached the state that are interested in setting up a district. So Chief Purcell's already reached out to them just to make sure that they know where we're at and that we have availability or capacity. So.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing further on that. Next thing is the community center. Christy, do you want to take the lead on this?
Sure. So, so we have our architect here from BH+A, Joel Bargman, who I think you've met before. And so what we really wanted to do, we also have, Tom Gatsunas as our OPM from CHA. So he works closely with Alicia Monks, who you may have seen at other meetings on this project. So we have been doing all of the public engagement to this point really to design the building. And as we've talked about, this building is not as prescriptive as like a public safety building. And so it has really been designed based on what the community has expressed they were looking for, understanding that the senior center would move over to that building, and also that the recreation department has already moved over and there's some fit up that could be done to make that programming space improved. So the select board back in September, October, decided that we would move forward in a phased approach. And so we were pursuing the full design of phase 1 to the point of bid documents, which was approved at the October town meeting. We've gotten really far in the design. We continue to have a lot of public engagement. We actually have one tonight. If anyone's interested in talking about furniture and fixtures, that's tonight at 6 o'clock.
Cancel my plan.
And so, but also part of the discussion more recently has been about the delay of the community center project, so that only the library building project is on the warrant in March. And so the select board voted to delay the project to at least October town meeting of 2025, and then authorized use of the lower level of the community center for temporary library space, but really only the sort of back portion as more of a permanent use, and then ability to use the front portion of the lower level. But if we were to pursue the construction of or fit up of the community center project, they would be able to sort of locate only in the back of that space. So when you're looking at the design, you'll see the senior center space is in the front, and then there's like auditorium use and veterans offices in the back. That auditorium use, veterans office space would be where the library would be if we were to construct while they're there. And that's all been discussed with the building department and fire department in terms of our ability to do that. But given where we are in design, I just wanted to make sure that this committee was fully up to speed on where we're at, because when we are ready to move to construction, this certainly is this committee's responsibility. So that's my intro.
Peter, you came in late. I'm sorry. Did you want anything you wanted to address?
I'll raise my hand if I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add, and it's been talked about the decision, as Christy said, for the library to be the only thing on the warrant, but also when they got there, they went out to bid in terms of temporary space, and where those costs were. For us, it just made sense to use space that we already own and save the taxpayers money of not having to pay for temporary space. There will be some costs to move and fit that up, but a lot cheaper than it would be to rent space for 12 to 18 months. So it's just, from the select board's view, was a way to save the taxpayers money in the whole project.
And I know myself, I'm on the library building committee also as a representative from the municipal building committee, and being able to utilize the rec center, I believe it's over $600,000 that we're able to save
Yes.
from having to pay the fees. And this is not only, for running the library, but for also storage, because it is such a large building. So we'll be able to utilize both parts of that, for the library itself. So I think it was a win-win for the town, and certainly is going to save a lot of money, and hopefully will convince a lot of people to support the project.
Yeah, and I should also add too that we've had really good discussion between our architects and the library architects, so that as they're thinking about what they might want to do in that space, they're understanding what the future use of that space is going to be, so that they're not putting things in there that are more permanent that would have to be removed when we move forward with this project. So.
Thank you. I think the other justification for explaining the project and why we're continuing is that there's a opportunity with Eversource to replace the 24 rooftop HVAC units and get a tremendous rebate on that as a renovation project as opposed to new construction. So to get that rebate designed, we have to sort of figure out what's in the building so we can tell Eversource what the rooftop units are. That's been done, and it's that's one piece, so that the recreation on the second floor and the library, when they go on the first floor, and then subsequent use of the first floor, will have the right equipment, brand new, on the roof as opposed to 20-year-old equipment. And we're also advancing some other grants that are sort of dependent on knowing what the design is, such as the emergency generator that would allow the building and that to be used as the emergency management location by the fire department should you have a storm or power outage. So there's some coordination on a very big scale that's happening as well. Just make sure, I'm going to quickly go through the history of the project so you know that where the town got to was done with some thought. This is the side that faces the parking lot. The senior center is on the ground floor facing the parking lot. The recreation department's now on the second floor where Boston Sports Club was. And the recreation offices enter in this right-hand corner of the building. There's an elevator and a stair. We have had elevator consultants come out. That's a 20-year-old elevator without any repairs, so we're trying to manage that so that that's the only elevator for the building, that they understand what any issues are, what might need to be upgraded, and that to keep that fully functioning so you can get up to the second floor. There's a couple of other packages that are being done because the building has some wear and tear on it that, since it was last occupied, hasn't really been maintained by the developer. When the town bought it, there was a due diligence report, and we tried to grab all of the due diligence report items on building maintenance and put them in separate packages so the town can either procure that through the DPW, through independent bids. It doesn't have to be tied in to the main project, which allows it to be done through capital improvement plans and other factors. So that includes what this drawing is showing is some sidewalk improvements where there are tripping hazards, some site work improvements, access so that the egress for the library and the egress for the community center, when that goes in on the first floor, has a sidewalk on the top side of the building that takes it to a public way, which is required by code. Some other site work improvements. There's another package for the roof of the building. There's another package for exterior repairs, which are really minor and could be really bid out by DPW to, it's about a $50,000 caulking repair project. And then there's another package that will repair the pool in the recreation department as a separate item. So there are 5 separate little packages that we're producing in addition to this. So this is the space where the library would go. The senior center would be on the left of those columns where that gentleman is standing. And then the space on the right is the open space that we were envisioning to leave open for polling. It wasn't going to be finished as such. It was going to be left like this. So it's really no change to the original idea, and that there is some work, as Christy mentioned, because you have to segregate out the lights that are on the right from the lights that will support the library. We'll have to do some work with the existing air conditioning and heating system to segregate out the senior center from the library space, but that's relatively minor work. And then upstairs, there's no work happening right now, other than we're planning on the HVAC rooftop equipment that would tie into all the existing ceiling work on the recreation department. So, and then as I mentioned, the pool leaks, not seriously, but it does go through the liner and the concrete shell have some cracks, and that's all been being studied, and a package been presented so that can be repaired.
Yeah, just a note on that the capital expenditures planning committee has recommended that as a article for this town meeting to be used, free cash to basically get the pool up and running. So town meeting still has to vote for it, but it came through that process. It was one of the items, and it was approved through the planning committee to present as a capital item this year to basically fix that pool, and it was roughly $400,000 to do all that, all new liner, piping, everything, but get that up and running, which I think will be something that town, we hear a lot from folks that, from a recreation standpoint, are looking forward to having a pool there.
Is there any damage on the first floor of the ceiling or anything from the leak?
Yeah, there's some damage right next to the elevator and the recreation entry. Water just sort of migrates through. You can see it. It's got salt on the floor, which is indication that there's chlorine coming from upstairs. But the only other real ceiling problem is on the second floor in the what used to be the spinning room of the Boston Sports Club. You can see there's some leaks, so that's one of the items that trying to get ahead of and put the roof repair package, get that all set so that can be bid. We're thinking that would ideally be bid after you replace the rooftop units, because our assumption is you're not going to get up and replace 24 units without dropping a hammer or something on the roof and creating another few problems. So we want to, but I think that my point is that the town's been really great about directing us to get the project in line so things can be done in a orderly manner instead of, oh, we have a roof leak, now what are we going to do about it?
So the money that Ian, you mentioned, that's just for the pool?
Just for the pool.
That doesn't include any other repairs that have to be done for next to the elevator or anything?
No.
Right, if we find the elevator report comes back, we'll let the town know, and then that could be planned. I'm sure there's an elevator contract that could be for that.
Peter, you have something?
Are there any other of these articles anticipated for this town meeting?
The rooftop unit replacement
Just the rooftop and
at
And
this
the pool.
point, yeah.
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 Is the pool a pivot from previous thinking, or is the pool always going to get restored?
Yeah, we had looked at it as, and I think that what we got back from the community was to restore it.
Right. There was definitely, we talked about the fact that if we heard from the community that they didn't want to restore it, we would look towards filling it in. But I think that's between this, with all the community engagement we've done, we've heard that people are interested in the pool. I think we've specifically heard that from the senior population. I think, or I guess I should say I have. I know Jen Kirkland, our recreation director, has a high interest of folks for swim lessons and things like that. I think we see it as a revenue source.
Yeah.
So we did hear that in the feedback in the community, but we also did an online survey, and the pool was very highly sought after to be repaired. And so I'm not going to go through the results, but we did get 1,091 results from residents. So, the issue is you have a community meeting, you might have 100 people, and folks are saying, you're taking a lot of direction from community meetings. It was nice to reach out to 1,000 people and get a wider spectrum and understand what people have as problems for the recreation center, for the senior center, and what indoor swimming you can see was 631 people really wanted that repaired. That's a pretty good response. So I'm going to quickly just express, we went through, the contract was really nicely laid out to ask us to do a minimum, a middle range, and a maximum version of the scheme, and we did that. The minimal layout is to replace the senior center, but to make it sort of a standalone senior center. There's no vertical connection to the recreation department, so it's not really a community center. It's a senior center on the first floor, recreation on the second floor, and the program that's shown here is the 15,000 square foot replacement of the existing senior center that was the program determined through our first phase of the work. We came up with a minimal amount of work that would be needed on the second floor as well. Then alternative 2 created what we thought was a less expensive way to connect the senior center to the recreation department, which would use the existing stair and elevator for what was Boston Sports Club, now used by the recreation department. And you can see the lower left corner of the building made a vertical connection. The problem is that the senior center floor, or what used to be Steinmart, is 3.5 feet above the entry to the recreation center. So by the time you're done putting a ramp and a stair in, it is sort of the middle range cost, but it takes up a lot of space. It's not that efficient. And now we're requiring all the users to come down to that corner, use an elevator that's 20 years old, and not have any backup elevator in the building, which in a 60,000 square foot building that might be a heavily community used in the future, we thought that might be maybe problematic to think about. And you can see also some of the rooms moved around for discussion purposes with the community. Essentially, it was, where is that upper left multi-purpose room located in the building, and how big that multi-purpose room is. And then the third option was the most expensive, kept the multi-purpose room in a really ideal location, but added a stair and an elevator that would connect the second floor to the first floor, in addition to the outside. So now you don't have to go outside from the senior center to go up to the second floor recreation department. You can go right from the inside, use the pool, use the gym. The gym can be outfitted for pickleball and Zumba and yoga and et cetera, et cetera. So the advantage of this interconnection is that the senior center doesn't have to double down on fitness spaces. Their activity spaces can be shared with the upstairs. It works out really well from a time perspective, because senior centers are usually busy in the mornings and the rec center is usually busy after school. And it's a good way to be synergistically tied together and integrate the two programs.
And just a note too, the senior center is already using the rec space, and seniors are loving it and don't want to go back to the senior center for any of that stuff. So it's actually being used by seniors today on the second floor.
Can I ask a question? Just silly one. What's the length of the building from the recreation entrance on the lower left to the multi-purpose room on the upper left? What is the length of that building? I have no idea.
It's about 200 feet.
200 feet.
Yeah, approximately, yeah.
So we're going to have an elevator on one end and possibly an elevator on the other end.
We have an elevator where that orange space is right in the
Right in
middle
the
of the
middle.
building.
Oh,
That's
there's
right
an
by
elevator
the
there?
No, that's
entry.
that's the
Oh, I
proposal
thought you were
for
talking
one
about the
in.
back corner.
Nope.
Yeah. And the idea is where that entry is, where the arrow is in the middle of the scheme, and that orange is, from that line up is really an area of public use. That you have a nice multi-purpose room that may not be used by the seniors at night, could be used by other groups in the community. So there's the senior center spaces can be closed off at night. You can use the I mean, the multipurpose room, you can use the kitchen, they could use the back space for polling, other activities, so it's a nice, the building sets itself up very nicely for joint use. And okay, so what that all led to was working with the community on a preferred option. The preferred option was, well, we went through a rather rigorous evaluation process. We went through a cost estimating process, and obviously it's an expensive project and it's more than folks anticipated, which led to the phasing idea. But what it got to was a final scheme that, as you can see, what's colored in is the first phase of the senior center with the prospect of putting an elevator in, and you can even put the stair in as add alternates to the budget, so that when we bid the project, you can see what the cost is, and you can make a decision whether you want to include that or not. It's fully designed in, and you could put it in later if you wanted to. But it's a very nicely developed scheme with, you can see, a even larger multi-purpose room on the top than we originally envisioned. That space is a great space. It has its own entry. You can come in and out of that at night. Has access to bathrooms. And then that white area is the future temporary library space. So that's 11,000 square feet of space. They said they needed about 10,000. And there was a meeting a couple weeks ago with our team and the library team to talk about, with the engineers and the town staff, demarc for life safety, electrical, HVAC, how that all works to carve out that area for the senior center. So that's not wasted money. That's, if you rented a space somewhere else, you'd have to do that kind of work as well. So this is the ultimate scheme for the second floor. And I'm just sort of showing that so that you understand that there was really a 4-month process of going through alternatives, evaluating things, working with the community, getting to a conclusion. And that conclusion is to help guide future work. And now additional work is going on. Acoustical engineers are out there measuring the acoustics of when you play basketball on the second floor. It's right above the library space. So what do we do about that? So we've had structural engineers out there looking at the roof loading for mechanical equipment. Some of the equipment that we'd like to put on the pool is heavier than the roof would allow. So that was good information to get back. That'll have to be phased in later, but we'll put in equipment now that is compatible with the design of the roof.
I think, excuse me 1 second, I think Peter had a comment.
Can you go back to the one that shows the temporary library space? So the main entrance for the library in its temporary state is the new entrance, the entrance, time-marked entrance on the left, correct?
That's what we're anticipating, that you'd use that, but if the senior center went into construction, there's another entry on the back side that would be allowed.
But right now, it'll be through the front Steinmart, the
Yeah.
old Steinmart entrance.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the operation of the library in the construction phase of the senior center. So
Yeah.
it's anticipated that that would then be no longer accessible from the front and be a back entrance only for the
Well,
library?
So I think we've talked about using the back entrance and the need to fit that up for handicapped accessibility. But when we did the walkthrough with the library design team and our design team, there was a lot of discussion about creating like a construction tunnel, for lack of a better word, to get so that you could get through from the front entrance. So I don't know that that's been determined, but I think just in terms of ability to do that, it sounded like there was ability to do sort of either or both.
So it's a deferred decision until.
Yeah,
certain
right.
things
Yeah.
happen. Okay.
Where the arrow is on the right side, that is envisioned long-term as a permanent stair and ramp, but in the short term, that could be a wood, temporary. You can buy platform ramps and that So if you needed to have a separate entry for the library, you could put that on the back, make it accessible. Then one nice thing about that is there's adequate parking on the back side of the building that's really not used by anyone else today. So it wouldn't be that you have to park in the front and come around to the back. So there's two options.
Yeah, I can see conflict of construction workers and equipment coming and going in the front door while somebody's going in with a stroller and two little kids.
That's
Yeah, I think just to be clear too, when the select board, the vote that we took was that the outfit of the community center space for construction would be no sooner than October town meeting. It may be that the decision is that it waits till the library moves out. Yeah, yeah, we spent a lot of time with that, but it really was, we didn't want to handcuff us and say we're going to absolutely wait 18 months because there is, right now, as we understand, and Joel can probably talk about it, that there may be an opportunity to save significant money based on where construction bidding happens to be. So we didn't want to handcuff ourselves to say that we weren't going to do anything for 18 months if we can save millions of dollars. So again, it's very flexible, but that decision hasn't been made yet.
So I'm not going to go through the cost, but what we did is we broke the cost down into many smaller items. So we had the senior center, we had the central elevator, we had the rooftop roof elements, and then we had all of those little packages I mentioned so that select board, other groups, finance committee town departments could sort of plan and envision the projects. And we'd also given them some ideas for what the escalation costs would be for those different projects. And when we were expressing those costs, it's always the total project cost. So it's not just the construction cost, but for example, the senior center, it's fully furnished, full audio visual, everything that they need to get in and operate the building. So where we're at right now is the second round of cost estimating is being done now that we have this more detailed set of drawings. The pool is being re-estimated now that our team's been out to dig through the liner and do the testing. And we're actually getting the cost estimate back tomorrow. We'll have a week to prepare it, and then the idea was to be able to give it to the town for some time to digest the numbers before we present it in January to the select board. So that's the process. I don't necessarily want to bore you with the interior design of the project. We have a whole lot of renderings which I can show, but in the interest of time, I sort of put the stop here.
Any questions?
I have a couple. You mentioned roof work, and I guess I didn't pick up on it. Are we replacing that whole roof after the rooftop work is done, the heaters?
Had a lot of talk about that. It's quite expensive to replace the whole roof. There's 5 years left on the existing warranty. So you had a choice. Do I void the warranty, put a new roof on, and go from there, which the advantage of that is you don't have to go back to town meeting and fund a roof replacement 5 years down the road. Or you could replace the whole roof today. It adds a lot to the project, and then you're sort of giving up 5 years of useful life on the existing roof. So the decision was made to repair the roof, put the equipment up, get that all up and running, and then replace the roof in the future in such time that it's required.
My concern is we're going to spend multiples of millions to renovate this building, and when we're going to patch a roof. I realize you're telling me it might have 5 years. Well, I know expectations and reality is a big different thing. By the time we get this project done, you're only going to have 2 or 3 years left on the estimated life of that roof. My concern is that the roof is, we've had many roof problems in this town, one building right here. I think that we really need to, or the town or you guys or somebody has to consider the roof is a more important thing to be done, because everything else sucks after the roof leaks.
Yeah. So there's one other consideration, and I don't disagree with you. We had a lot of conversation with Tom and how to factor this in with the community. When the senior center gets constructed, there's a kitchen and there's that large multi-purpose room, and then there's that potential future space which is designed to be a meeting space for the community that could have up to 300 people. At that time, when the senior center is done, we're putting new equipment on for the senior center, for the kitchen exhaust, because that's not part of the Steinmart HVAC design system. And the multi-purpose room needs a new HVAC because, again, you put 230 people in the senior center multi-purpose room. Steinmart HVAC was never designed to have that quantity of people in that size space. So there's a fair amount of rooftop work that will be done as part of the senior center work. And once it was decided to phase out the senior center, it seemed to make sense to phase out the roof replacement, because we didn't want to put a whole brand new roof on, then put kitchen exhaust, mechanical room exhaust, the auditorium, multi-purpose room exhaust, all that in, and then have another roof problem. So I know it's a needle to thread, but that was the decision and that could be changed, I'm sure.
It really comes, comes down to.
Could you come up to the mic section?
Tom Gazunas from CHA. It really comes down to when is the optimal time to do the roof. And with a phased project like this, when we're looking at, going in and but it's a major undertaking to replace the HVAC units that are up there now. And take the advantages of the utility rebates and the tax incentives that are available. That's a huge savings. To put that off, we lose that money. Gone, never to be able to come back to the town of Westborough again. So a good thing to do it now. But that doesn't include the HVAC equipment that Joel was talking about for the kitchen and for the large meeting room space. That would be part of that second phase. It's at that point that it probably makes the most sense to then do the roof, because that's where we would be replacing a lot of that square footage, a lot of the area, tying into the structure, et cetera, to get all of that done. But we could only do the HVAC equipment associated with the kitchen and the multipurpose room and defer the roof to after its warranty period is over. It's a balance, and it's what's the smart thing, what's the best thing, what's the economically feasible, acceptable to the town of Westborough and the voters to do. Hope that helped.
I think,
Not much.
but I also think that one of the big challenges, and maybe you both were saying this, is that we don't know the timing of any of these projects. So, I think to your point, Peter, if we delay the phase one even 5 years or 10, that the roof might come up sooner, right, and as its own project. But if it's in October, it's hard to know when we would how the roof would be packaged as part of a larger project or not, depending on the timeline, which we don't know at this point.
Right. If I may, before you guys get into it, you mentioned the savings if rebating. What is the estimated money? We're talking about this large rebate. Are we talking hundreds of thousands?
Yes.
Are we talking $1 million?
No, so the cost, I think, for replacing is 800,000.
Replacing the units.
For the units, we're getting 500,000 rebate.
So it's actually even better than that now.
Okay. Is it?
It's about 600,000 for the units. Actually, I should let Jim say it. Right.
Well,
Yeah, so-
And
it just got changed.
Yeah.
That number got
Okay.
increased this week, yeah.
Okay.
so
So Joel,
what's
do
the
you want
ballpark on a roof?
Well, so do you want to answer that question first, based on what you know? So
Well,
how much is the
I know
roof?
that we met with the DPW and the sustainability team and Tom's office and the Eversource, and they decided they could replace a few more units that would make sense, especially given the library. So the reason there's a higher rebate is there's 4 other units that are being replaced.
Can you just answer how much the total is? And then my understanding is the cost of the town is $75,000.
Yeah, that's correct. It's 8 and 6.
I have no problem with any of that. I'm just curious, what would you estimate a ballpark on the cost of re-roofing that building?
1.3 million.
Okay, so if we're gonna save $500,000 or whatever the hell you said, I don't remember.
600.
Too many numbers coming in my head here.
600,000, yeah.
After 10, it's bad. But I was just wondering if we're gonna save some money on doing this. I don't know, I've been in business for almost 50 years, and roofs become a major issue when you start working on a building. And we're gonna tear the hell out of this building replacing things, and we're gonna patch a roof. And I don't know how many buildings in town that have flat roofs, which I'm assuming this building is a flat roof.
Yep.
We're gonna have a roof problem shortly after we do this project. I'm just concerned about that. I mean, whatever the town and the committee wants, that's fine.
But just for clarification, I think there's still a chance that the roof will get done as part of the senior center
Right.
project. The issue is whether it needs to be done as part of the HVAC replacement project. So I think that's the.
I'm just saying the whole project itself.
Yeah, so I think you're right. There's still a good possibility that the roof will get done as part of the senior center project. It's just
Right.
not gonna get done this year as part of the HVAC.
Right, because the HVAC project is proposed for this March town meeting, regardless of the timeline of the phase 1. So yeah, I agree with what Rod said.
Jim, you had something?
Yeah, Pete, I just want to understand, I understand the warranty expires in 5 years, but the overall condition of that roof, we had an in-depth roof inspection done. The roof is in good shape. I mean, there's a few deficiencies here and there that will be taken care of under, our budgeting process. But overall, I mean, I want to make sure we understand 5 years from now, it's like, oh my God, we got to put a roof on. As long as we maintain the roof and keep it clean and do the recommendations that our roofing company has given us, it could go 10 years. It's not in bad shape. There was a few little deficiencies that needed to be taken care of, but besides that, I don't think that it's detrimental that we say we have to replace that roof in 5 years. We don't know that right now.
That's just the warranty period.
That's the warranty
So we
period.
have a warranty
right.
for another 5 years on the roof.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I also understand
Yep.
the reality of having a roof get beat to hell by the work that's gonna be done on it. You can't appreciate how much twisting, turning, loading that you do on this. I'm assuming it's a rubber roof, although it could be one of the other roofings. It takes not a lot to penetrate a roof. And a leak, after we spend $10 to $20 million fixing this thing up, it only takes one leak to screw it all up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted, I am focused on the roof. There are other issues that I think we certainly have to deal with. And if it's in the process that we may get into the roof, I just think we can't ignore the roof.
Yeah. No, and that pricing is in there, in all your estimates.
That's correct, yeah. And I just want to mention it's not like the HVAC equipment's being replaced just to get the rebate. The new equipment is hybrid, so it's a heat pump until such point that the winter heat pump's not working so well and the gas kicks in. But it'll be more efficient and it'll be a greener system than the 20-year-old system that's on the building now.
Yeah, I think that speaks for the amount of rebates we're getting from the utility companies to do this project. The energy savings that removing those 20-year-old units that are on the roof now and putting the high efficiency hybrid heat pumps is going to save substantial energy and carbon footprint. So I think that shows in what the rebates from the utility companies, how important it is to them also to change these out.
It's a technicality, but by doing it in the spring town meeting, we're renovating the existing use. If we waited and tried to get the rebate when the senior center is and it's for new construction,
Right.
and the rebates for new construction are not as good,
Exactly.
so we're.
Right, this is actually done as a energy project.
That's correct.
Right.
Is there a deadline that the work needs to start or be completed to
They
get the
haven't given
rebates?
us a deadline, but we.
There is a deadline. We have to have it done by the end of next year,
Okay.
by the end of 2025.
So we need the vote in March.
Yep.
Yes.
But what they did tell us the deadline was, do it before you do the construction of the senior center, because then all bets are off.
Is there anything
Just a
further?
question back on the roof too, is it a full replacement or is it I know like in some of our schools now we're doing a new membrane, et cetera,
Yeah.
what?
That's like out of my area of expertise. When Greenwood came in for your due diligence, they did a full replacement. Now the energy code's changed since Greenwood did that report, so we might want to think about it, because the schools do a re-roofing, so they don't have to rip everything off, re-insulate it, and it can be quite expensive to do that. So it'll probably end up being more like the way you do the schools.
Okay. Right. So that's what would be proposed for like Mill Pond or whatever, where we don't have to rip the whole thing out and do it all. It's basically you get a new membrane, whatever, you get another 25-year warranty on it. So you kind of a new roof, but you kind of, I'm not an expert on roofs either, but I call it like a resurfacing.
Yeah, otherwise you have to take all the insulation out, all the flashing around the edge. It's a much more expensive project on a school. So they have this option of re-roofing, and, you know, I don't know that we're at that point on, I'm not at that point on the.
Tom Gazunis, the difference is it's a replacement of the membrane, not of the entire roofing system. So you get a new waterproof membrane over the entire structure, but not all of the other components that then trigger major other code upgrades and requirements.
Thank you.
So do we have the ability to bid out the HVAC project now?
Well,
It's not really bid.
no, because we don't have the money. So
But couldn't we bid it out and then be prepared with a bid in hand?
well, right. So that's
Well,
yeah. So
You don't have
sorry.
to bid it, because it's an Eversource program, so it's a, and they have a contractor and it's a
relationship.
program,
Okay.
and they
Yeah.
come in, and it's like Mass Save program.
Sorry, one of the things that we've talked about is can we, and I just misinterpreted what you were saying, but one of the things that we talked about is could we do it in this calendar year? And the reality is we probably could do it if we were only on the hook for the 75,000, but we have to front the full 600,000, so we can't do it through current budget. So we'll go to town meeting and then we'll pursue the rebate. But yeah, through the program, it's the relationship. And so our design team has been working really closely with Jim and also Ben Bowers, who's our sustainability coordinator, who is working with the utilities, so.
What is the life expectancy of a new roof, a new rubber roof?
Well, I think you can buy different warranties, it's 20 to 30 years.
The roof, it will last that long? Because I know years ago that was not the
Yeah,
case.
no, you
with
can get
rubber
a
roofs.
20 to 30-year warranty. And on some of these new roofs, when the warranty is up, you can just extend the warranty. You buy a new warranty, you don't necessarily have to replace the roof. So there's some, the new technology is much, much better.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything further?
Oh, is he done with his presentation now?
I think so.
Because I have a few questions.
Yep.
We talked about caulking. Are we talking caulking of the roof membrane, or are we talking caulking
No,
around
there's-
windows?
There's some cracks in the masonry on the backside of the building that's concrete block. There's no drain on the fire stair, so the water's pouring off the edge, and that needs to be cleaned up. There's mold and mildew on the outside of the building that will deteriorate the masonry. So there's some I think it's about $50,000 of minor repairs that's been documented, and it's something that I think the town would just get a waterproofing company to go in and do it. You don't need a general contractor or anything.
And this was identified when we were buying the building.
Yes.
These are things that we when we did the whole
This is
survey.
first, this is basically presented to us now, and so I'm,
Yeah.
some of
No, the
these,
questions are great, because the
The,
public
uh,
should hear it as well, so.
the brickwork, you mentioned a little bit. Is the caulking, you mentioned caulking the bricks, are you talking a repointing of brick, or are you
No,
talking?
it's literally
caulking?
where the expansion and
Expansion
control
joints in the
joints of
building?
the brick are, that caulking has a life of 10 to 20 years, and it's 20 years old, so there's areas where it just needs to be recalked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I certainly would agree with that. And you mentioned the town hiring somebody to waterproof it. Do we know if there is infiltration, other than where some of these areas need to be caulked, of moisture coming from the outside into the bricks and in behind the bricks?
There's some indication of moisture getting through at the fire stair and the northeast corner where the loading dock to Steinmart was. The foundation had settled a little bit, and there's cracking on the mortar that needs to be repaired. But that's
Because I
stable.
think
That area
waterproofing is part, as much as I think the roof is important, and a brick building, the bricks are porous, water is gonna be driven in high winds. The migration into the inside of the building is almost as bad as water coming through a roof leak coming down.
Yeah.
So I think that somebody has to think about waterproofing this structure. I just think if it's 20 years old, I can't imagine that the people that built it or owned it before we bought it have done anything on that.
That's Jim's job.
Well, actually, it had been done, when I was negotiating or talking with Grossman, our representative, that he had the building pressure washed and sealed.
Okay.
I don't have the dates in front of me, but I know it's been done. But the only area that wasn't done is the one that we're speaking of, that back fire stairwell that was added on to the building. It actually looks like at some point back in 2000, when the project started, 4 or 5, there was not an exterior stairwell, and I think it's in plan review afterwards, it was determined that they wanted a separate, another egress from the second floor, because that services the second floor. So it actually jolts out of the back of the building. It definitely, if you go there and look at it, if you go into the stairwell, you walk through the door and turn around and look, it looks like the exterior of the building, and then they had just put a block stairwell in. I don't believe, just because that's the area where you can see the white, film on the inside of where it's migrated through. So we knew about that, when the building, and it was something that was mentioned in our due diligence report that, that would need to be sealed.
Yeah, because I think that the ceiling of the building is very important,
Yeah.
and I'd like to see that as part of the overall scheme of things on this, the roof and the pointing of the outside, and I guess I'll wait for later on to, well, I did have a question on the pool. You said you did some investigation, and the pool, the lining of the pool, is that a plaster lining?
It's a vinyl liner, so
It's a
there's some-
vinyl liner over
yeah,
the masonry?
over lightweight concrete, and there's some issues with the lightweight concrete that need to be repaired, and a new liner put in the pool.
Okay.
There's also all new equipment that has to be in. There's
Yeah.
some improving of drainage. When we looked at it, we knew they didn't have proper drainage in the pump room, so water, chlorine would splash over the floor, et cetera. So, I mean, before we bought the building, we drained everything in the pool, so there hasn't been water in there the whole time we've been there, but that's the kind of repair and replacement. It's replacing the whole system, basically.
Yeah.
Could you just summarize next steps in terms of an estimate will be prepared by when? When
Well,
will this
we're getting the
committee see
first
it?
pass of the new estimate
Yep,
tomorrow.
okay.
And then our thought was we'd work it out and review it, any questions, get it cleaned up, let Tom's team look at it, review it, and then give it to Christie and the team so that the town can get used to the numbers, and then we can figure out how to present it, and if maybe things have to be changed slightly in result of numbers that come in, but we were trying to get it so there's a week in the new year before we go public with the numbers to really understand them and process it.
I guess I'm just
We have
wondering
a-
whether it should go to this committee first before it's,
So we have we have a dedicated meeting date of January 8th for the presentation of the numbers, and that's a select board meeting. I don't think that it would be ready to come to this committee sooner, so I suppose if this committee wanted to see it before it was presented to the select board, we would just have to push out that presentation date. Or it could be a joint meeting of the municipal building committee and select
Could be
board.
a joint meeting.
I'd rather do that than push it out any further.
Okay, so it's an evening meeting on January 8th, as was the plan, and it's dedicated to this presentation.
Yeah, there's nothing else on the agenda.
Okay.
if we could just see it beforehand, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So is,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
just one last question. Is the OPM doing a separate estimate?
We are not doing a separate estimate, timing doesn't allow it, but we will be doing a review of the estimate, going through it all.
Okay.
So if I can just understand, Chrissy, so once you get all the numbers and everything, who will be putting the article forward for the work to be done?
The project?
Yes.
Well, I think the select board I think the intention is for the select board to hear the numbers and then have a discussion about timing of the project. And I expect that then that would be relayed to this committee, and then it would, I'm not really sure, honestly. I mean, at what point this committee wants to put the project forward, or if the select board wants to. It's sort of a nuance that I'm not sure. I think we would probably all want to jointly present to the town meeting. I don't know, sort of whose name would be on the article, but once it was construction, it would really be under, this committee as any other building project. The pool project, I think will just come forward. It's coming forward as a capital item, as Ian said, through recreation, and then that would really be managed, I think, by Public Works. And then same with the RTU, or the replacement of the rooftop units.
Right. Ian, you said that money for the pool work is coming from free cash?
Yeah.
So that can be done immediately, doesn't have to wait till the next fiscal year.
That's right.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, so went through the whole capital expenditures process. There's a number of things we have, and it's pretty much all the stuff that goes through that. Our capital plan is that's utilizing free cash, and that was one of the items that got recommended out of the committee. I mean, town meeting still has to vote on it, but it is free cash, so it's not a raise and appropriate.
I apologize, everyone, I have
Nope.
another meeting I have to
I think Rod, you had a
Thanks.
little-
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, Merry
Same to
Christmas.
you.
Same to you.
Happy New
Thank
Year.
Okay, is there anything further? Peter?
I just was thinking, when we saw the survey that was done, and this has nothing to do with the actual building, you had 1,200 respondents when you asked the town what to do. This is just a little thing for me. The building is, and you had 630 wanted the pool. Way back in the very beginning of your presentation.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I was just thinking, when we did the country club, we had 1,500 town responders. And out of the 1,500, 87% wanted a restaurant in the country club. And it got shot down at town meeting. So sometimes surveys don't tell us enough, or give us the right information. And that was the only point I wanted to make. That it just made me think that, we thought we were on the right road, and we were not on the right road.
Right. Sometimes the people that respond to these surveys aren't the ones that show up at the town meeting
Exactly,
also.
exactly. So I don't put a lot of credence in part of that. That's
No, and again, like we saw with the country club, that survey was done with no thought of cost or whatever, and that's the question comes up is, okay, we have a cost on the pool, even though 630, is that, do they want to spend that cost? Now, again, it's not a tax piece like, actually, the additional money for the country club is
Yeah.
not either, but I think there was confusion on that.
I
too.
do think one of the challenges with the country club that is not necessarily presented here is that the estimated cost exceeded what we would have been able to do within the enterprise fund, and the commitment was to do it without impacting taxes. So I think that that's one of the challenges that is not necessarily the case. I mean, you're right. I mean, we wish everyone would take the survey and we would have a more statistically significant response, but I think we've also heard it in the community engagement meetings. To your point, though, the people who come to the community engagement meetings aren't necessarily the ones that are coming to town
Yeah,
meeting.
I just wanted to say, it's an interesting figure, but it's not necessarily the real sentiment.
Yeah.
But-
Right.
I think we need
Well,
to
and
make.
if you looked at that survey too, the number one response that the town wanted in that space was an indoor turf complex, which we're not doing.
So the town gets to forget the survey in some cases. No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It was interesting to think about that building, and now this building, and using a survey that led us in a direction on both buildings, and one got shut down. And I understand, there's a lot going on tax-wise and, inflation and all this other crap. We're gonna have it on this building somewhat too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
No,
And I know we can't please everybody, and I.
No, and we're using what we have, and again, it's, what I said is, we're gonna present it to town meeting, and town meeting makes the call, and if town
Right.
meeting says
Right.
no to the pool, then we've got our answer and we go a different direction.
I think
Exactly, but it just struck me when I was listening to that. Silly things strike me.
Kristen?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think one of the most important points related to the pool is going to be able to identify the anticipated revenue. And so we know that, and we'll have that information.
There was British Swim there before, wasn't there?
What's that?
There was British Swim there, I think, when it was BSC.
Yeah,
My
Yeah.
guy goes to Y now. 'cause that's
Yeah.
not an option.
But I think, to that point too, is their interest, I mean, I think nothing's determined, but even rec looking at, I mean, we can't get lifeguards for Chauncey.
Yeah,
So I think the plan would be that we would, in essence, outsource,
just
The-
like BSC did.
just like BSC did.
Yeah.
And British Swim has definitely expressed interest in being,
They're already there.
yeah, so. It may not be, then we have to go through the process, we're not gonna, it's not gonna be the town. We just know that we struggle to get lifeguards and other stuff, so it will be contracted out to do that.
Peter?
The implication of that is that it would be cash flow positive to the town, whatever we.
Pete, could you come up to the microphone just so I can hear you?
So the implication of those comments is that it'd be cash flow positive to the town. We'd get enough money from this service provider that'd cover the cost of these repairs and the amortization of that and so forth.
That would be that's the goal.
The goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So currently the recreation department doesn't have any expenses that are covered by taxes. All of their expenses are covered through their revolving account. And this would be something else that would work through the revolving account. So that we would anticipate that the revenue from swim lessons or birthday parties or other programs that we might have within the pool would cover that. Yeah.
Nothing further on the rec center? Okay.
I'll go home and think about it.
No, please do.
That's good.
Okay, is there
Yeah,
anything
that's what we
under-
want, so.
Anything under old business? I think we've addressed everything. Okay, pick the next meeting date. Do we have to post if we're gonna have a joint meeting with the?
I think we should
select board?
post it, yeah.
We would post it as a joint meeting, but we can take care of that in our office. I think I'll just talk to Patrick, our chair, just to confirm, but
All
I
right.
think it's
I
Makes
think
sense.
it's probably a good thing to have.
Yeah,
A
I
joint
agree.
meeting with them and.
You would just have to, we would have to have a quorum. If it's a joint meeting, we would have to have a quorum of the municipal building committee. So
Okay.
we'll probably want to reach out to make sure that we have at least a quorum available that evening.
So we can plan on that being the actual next meeting, but I think we probably have our own meeting. Is everybody available on the 16th of January? No? Okay. Let's see. How about the 23rd, the following week? Thursday?
I think.
Okay. Everybody else?
Just look.
Looks all right. The 23rd, which is a Thursday.
Should be okay.
Okay. So the next meeting will be scheduled for January 8th, but then January 23rd for our next monthly meeting.
Sure.
It's 6 o'clock. It's on the 8th.
Okay, the meeting on the 8th is at 6 o'clock.
Is that, and it's here.
And that's just addressing that issue, correct?
It's going to be the cost,
Right.
the report out on the cost. It's only, that's the only thing on the agenda.
Okay.
Is that a Tuesday night?
Yes.
No, it's
No,
Wednesday.
it's a Wednesday,
Wednesday.
sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a regularly scheduled select board meeting, it's a special
Okay.
meeting.
So it'll just be
100 meetings in January.
We only have, 5 or 6 scheduled meetings in
All
January.
right, is there anything further? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Second over there. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.